Have you ever watched a really old cartoon and been surprised by the subject matter? It could be the guns, or the violence, or the drinking, or the smoking, or the racial stereotypes. You might watch these and wonder how on earth they got away with this stuff back then. And the simple answer is, there was nothing to get away with. These weren't made for kids. And I'm tired of people pretending that they were. As defined by TV tropes, the age ghetto is the belief that animation is for kids. The age ghetto came to life in the 1960s and set animation back decades by stereotyping the whole medium as a way to distract kids in the morning. Of course, before the 60s, this wasn't really a problem, not as much. Before TV, animation was mostly shown in theaters, as feature films, mainly from Disney, or more commonly as theatrical shorts. But as animation grew more and more expensive in the 40s and 50s, it became less and less profitable to book these theatrical shorts. So studios produced less and less until they found a new market. See, by the 1960s, TV was the new platform of choice for animation. Studios saw their cartoon libraries as a natural fit for TV, which made sense. There wasn't any home video or anything, and theaters weren't running shorts much, if at all anymore. So TV was a wise option. The studios at first just aired their theatrical libraries, but it wouldn't be long before TV animation was a thing. By the 1960s, Hanna-Barbera, the studio behind Tom and Jerry in the past, was cranking out new TV series almost yearly. These series were very popular, but also very low budgeted. And it was very cheap, limited animation, which was ad-driven, to the point that some cartoons like Yogi Bear only existed because they were sponsored by Kellogg's or some other big advertiser. Kids still watched the hell out of this stuff, don't get me wrong, but adults had less patience and tuned out. And eventually, more studios jumped on the bandwagon, and more cheap, ad-driven cartoons were produced. Pretty soon, all these cartoons were put together to air in programming blocks, usually in the mornings, for maximum advertising exposure to impressionable children. And over the years, cartoons came to be seen primarily as entertainment for kids. And that perception really caused new cartoons to be targeted to kids as well. And that cycle continued for decades. Even when a cartoon did feature smart writing and strong characters, it was more often than not cancelled for not appealing to kids enough. Look at Gargoyles, or Freakazoid, Teen Titans. Fox once tried to put Batman on primetime on Sunday evening and tanked in the ratings because its audience never even gave it the time of day. Today, the age ghetto has improved somewhat. The rise of anime and animated sitcoms like Family Guy or King of the Hill, along with Adult Swim programming and streaming service mega budgets, has shown that animation can be for everyone, which is an idea about as revolutionary as the idea that live action can be for everyone. But what the hell, I'll take it. In any case, a lot of recent animation is made for adults, and a lot of it is really good.
There are people in your life who are going to try to hold you back, slow you down, but you don't let them.
Even a lot of the kid-friendly stuff is written well enough to appeal to adults. And that kind of mature, smart writing is some of the best fiction I've watched. Even as I make this video, Spider-Man is getting as much praise as any live-action movie would. But annoyingly enough, the age ghetto still persists, and especially for older classic cartoons. And I don't mean the 80s or 90s. I mean Golden Age cartoons. The Golden Age of American animation is usually defined as the period from 1928 to about the 1960s. This is a time when animation grew rapidly in both quality and quantity. It went from a silent film novelty to a full-fledged industry, with innovations in sound and storytelling, and the creation of so many iconic characters. From Disney alone, you had obviously Mickey and Minnie, Pluto, Goofy, Donald. Then you had the Looney Tunes cast, which is even broader in my opinion. Not only that, you had Tom and Jerry, and besides that, you had Woody Woodpecker and Popeye. Okay. Enough name dropping. I think you know what I'm talking about by now. These were defining years for animation. But no matter how well animated, no matter how groundbreaking, no matter how well written these cartoons were, they're still seen as kids' shows today. Even the owners of the cartoons themselves market them that way. Just look at the Warner Bros. YouTube, for example. The truth of the matter is, Golden Age cartoons weren't made for kids. They were made for adults, for two main reasons. The first is simply that the people making the cartoons never considered their work to be juvenile. I read a lot of pencil tests and storyboards and stuff like that, and I can tell that these writers and animators were pretty serious about their art. They wanted to entertain their audience, whether that meant being as funny or as innovative or as moving as possible. The second reason is the market. Now you gotta remember, these cartoons didn't release on their own. You couldn't just walk into a theater and watch Steamboat Willie, for example, when that came out. You bought a ticket to watch the short and maybe a newsreel / serial, and then the feature film, which was usually marketed to adults. This meant the cartoon had to be written with adults in mind. Now that doesn't mean they were only for adults. As you can see today, Golden Age animation appeals to pretty much everyone. But you had to make sure the adults were entertained. So the writing and directing had to be sharp. And that's the big reason these cartoons are so watchable decades after their release. And that's also why it was so normal to see all that over-the-top violence and topical humor, celebrity caricatures, cigars, guns, alcohol. Golden Age animation was playing side by side with Golden Age Hollywood. It wasn't jarring or anything. They weren't shoehorning this stuff in like Shadow the Hedgehog did. And sure, kids liked it too. They were a big part of the audience. There's a reason Mickey Mouse clubs were even a thing. There's a difference between appealing to kids and being for kids. It kind of reminds me of The Simpsons. That show appeals to kids. If you're anything like me, you first watched it as a kid. It has a huge merchandise line directed at kids. Bart even has a role model section on Wikipedia. But with all that said, the series was and still is written for adults. And I'm not trying to say Tom and Jerry and The Simpsons are the same. They're different genres and different time periods. I am trying to say that these series were written with adults in mind and grew from there. Like The Simpsons, Tom and Jerry has merch for kids. It has spin-offs for kids. They've been making kid-friendly Tom and Jerry spin-offs and sequels since the original series ended in the 50s. In fact, at this point, Tom and Jerry is probably a kid's series. But just like The Simpsons, the original work is so successful because it was produced with older people in mind. Now, you might be wondering why this even matters. These are old cartoons, and many are so obscure only adults can even find them at all. But the popular ones are enjoyed by kids and adults today. So who cares if people see classic Looney Tunes as a kids show? Basically, I think if you see it as one, you're contributing to the stereotype. Look at the way society sees animation today, as comedies, mostly for kids, that adults can put up with or enjoy sometimes. Now, slowly enough, animation is getting more respect and is starting to be recognized as a medium that works with any genre. God bless Guillermo del Toro. But when you have Oscar presenters sincerely describing animated movies as something parents have to endure, then there's still an issue here. So back to the point, what do classic cartoons have to do with this? Well, the Saturday morning cartoon era changed the popular opinion of animation. But in the period before that, animation wasn't a simple diversion for the young ones. Golden Age shorts were entertaining, but serious works of art, made by pioneering artists and innovators. These were at least 6 years apart. That's how doggedly these artists advanced the medium. I mentioned before how these shorts would roll before quote-unquote serious feature films. Well, a lot of those same feature films are forgotten today. You ever heard of Gang War? No one has. It's a lost film. But I bet you remember Steamboat Willie, which opened for Gang War in 1928. We remember the band concert. We remember Duck Amuck. This whole era of cartoons remains in our shared consciousness for a reason. For lack of a better term, they're cinema.
Animation is not a genre for kids, it's a medium.
I think if more people recognize that the Golden Age cartoons were never directed at kids, then the current stigma around animation, the age ghetto, will fade. And to be fair, it's slowly fading anyway. But when the community has to keep repeating that animation is cinema over and over again, then by definition, it's still a controversial idea. What if it was mainstream knowledge that animation is supposed to be for everyone? These cartoons were so well made that they're still extremely popular today, especially with kids. Adults enjoy them too. Film historians, animation buffs, boomerang enthusiasts. Me. But the average everyday adult sees no difference between these two Mickey series, for example. To the layman, old cartoons are nostalgia for Saturday morning, not a legitimate source of entertainment. Like when I go back and watch Little Bear, it's out of sheer nostalgia, or I want to share it with my little cousins or something. I have fun, but it's not like when I watch something like Avatar. I have fun watching Avatar because it's a strongly written and entertaining show, not because of nostalgia. See? And vintage cartoons are the same. If people give these shorts a chance, they'll find that they're just as funny as any Fox sitcom is. I know this because I'm the guy who puts on Classic Donald at the function. And it slaps. Everyone ends up liking it. The humor isn't just sophisticated, it's timeless. Honestly, I just want to see more people enjoy this stuff as much as I do. I love going on like cartoon research and reading about the development of each cartoon, or like a spotlight on each animator. I love collecting the uncensored DVD collections that these studios love to throw out. And I love the very knowledgeable community of animation buffs. And I know there are people out there who would feel the same way, but they're skipping these cartoons simply because of this kiddie stereotype. And that sucks. Animation is cinema, and Golden Age animation is proof of that. If you have the chance, check out a classic cartoon today, or recommend one to someone you think would like it. I left some of my favorites in the description below if you're interested. Well, that's all I have to say about that. Thanks for watching this old, young man yell at Cloud for 20 minutes. Please like and subscribe and ring that bell. See you later.